What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to NFL Picks. Week 5, we are officially a quarter of the way through the NFL season. Um, some teams doing absolutely amazing, exceeding all expectations. 49ers, Eagles, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have definitely exceeded a lot of people's expectations, even the Houston Texans. Other teams in the middle, which is where a lot of the league you can very well say stands. And then some teams that have definitely underexceeded. The Carolina Panthers, Cincinnati, the Denver Broncos. But hey, only a quarter of the way through. And we still got a good bit of football left to play. So as these weeks continue to go by, these games, they get the importance of it. It ramps up, but still, you can say in the early point of the season. So without further ado, got some good games once again this week as we do every week. Let's get right into it. So last week was, without a shadow of a doubt, my worst week on picks. I went 7-9. The early window absolutely killed me. I mean, that is where I took a lot of gambles this past week with my picks. And I called, really, you could say, several upsets that I didn't get right. So, yeah. And, I mean, the other thing, too, was I went in the late window Sunday and Monday night, I went 5-0. So, if it weren't for that, it'd probably be even worse. So, I was able to at least salvage the week in that aspect. Overall, 41-23. So, that overall record takes a big hit. Lock of the week, 3-1, and upset of the week, 2-2 there. First week of bye weeks. Well, can you believe it? I mean, we're finally at the bye weeks. Cleveland Browns, the first place Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 2-2 Los Angeles Chargers, and the 3-1 Seattle Seahawks coming off that nice win last night versus the Giants. All of them, they get to enjoy the week, rest, watch Red Zone for 7 hours, and examine the rest of the league. So, without further ado, getting right into it, Thursday Night Football. The 0-4 Chicago Bears at the 2-2 Washington, whatever you want to call them. Washington, it's been up and down, but it's looked pretty solid. Washington took Philadelphia to their limit last week, which I said Washington would win, and they about did. I really feel like, to me, this screams sloppy football game. Obviously, I think you can very well say Washington should run away with this, and they should, but this screams more so sloppy football game. One that I think Washington wins, but I think the Bears and Washington played last year on Thursday night, and it wasn't a good game at all. I could very well see this being the same case. Sloppy game overall. I do think Washington comes out with the win, though. I think obviously that defense is going to be the difference maker when we're talking about getting to Justin Fields and rattling him. And that Washington offense is definitely capable of going off. But I think this is more so short week, Thursday night. I'd probably expect a lot of sloppy ball to be played in this game. But in the end, Washington comes away with the win. Second straight week. We are kicking off top of the morning, 9:30 a.m. Jacksonville got whatever you want to call it. It was a win versus the Falcons. Staying over in London to play the Buffalo Bills at the new stadium, Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. When you're looking at it, this game has a lot of potential to be a good game. Two offenses that – obviously, Buffalo's offense has really gotten into their rhythm. They are starting to click. They're starting to look like that typical Bills offense we're used to. Jacksonville has a lot of potential there, but it's the matter of can they get it going. Even though, yes, they beat the Falcons pretty good, outside of the one big play to Calvin Ridley, they never really got the offense going much. So I think that's what you get. If Jacksonville can get their offense going, I definitely think they have a chance, but I think they could have issues with that this week. I think Buffalo comes out, and I think they're getting ready to fire on all cylinders. Give me the Bills here. I just think they're the better team. They're the more gelled in team at this moment. So gonna have to take the Bills here, 30-17. Next game, the New Orleans Saints at the New England Patriots. Both teams coming off of ugly losses. The Saints lost at home in the Superdome to the Buccaneers. It was not an impressive showing in any way you put it. And the Cowboys just got absolutely smacked around in Dallas this past weekend. So both teams looking to bounce back. You would probably look and say this is an opportunity for a New England team to bounce back, and it definitely can be. But I also feel like you have to look at that New Orleans defense and you have to account for it and you have to respect how good it is. And I think that's what this game comes down to. I think the Saints defense is probably going to set that offense up very nicely, potentially. And I'm going to go with the Saints here. I actually think New Orleans gets to win. It's very hard to see New England going to 1-4 on the year, but I just think, man, I think that New Orleans defense is going to go in there, and I think they're going to be able to do what's necessary to really hold that New England offense in check and put that the New Orleans offense into nice situations. So I'm going to go ahead and take the Saints here. Next game, this was a tough one to pick. The AFC South is deadlocked with every team at 500. This game is, I want to say it has to be for the division lead through the first 5 weeks. The 2-2 Tennessee Titans at the 2-2 Indianapolis Colts. Tennessee, a lot of people counted them out in the preseason. A lot of people didn't want to believe in the Titans, but it's like they're on an on-off trajectory. It's like they show flashes, and they definitely did. They beat up that Cincinnati team last week. And I like where Indy is headed. I've said it all the time. And they're definitely going to show their flashes, but Tennessee, you have to respect that front seven of the Titans. And I think that's probably what wins you the game here for Tennessee. I'm going to go with the Titans here. I just think it's experience. And obviously, Anthony Richardson's still a rookie. He's still getting comfortable. Anthony Richardson, it seems like, is taking risks he shouldn't. So I'm going to have to go with the team that I think is going to play it more smart. Obviously, you're still looking to get Derrick Henry going. But we know that Derrick Henry against the AFC South, we already know there has to be no explanation. This could definitely be a good spot to get him going. And I'm going to go with the Titans here, man. Next game, the Baltimore Ravens at Pittsburgh Steelers, a rivalry that when you're looking a few years back, really hyped up as maybe one of the best rivalries in football. It's definitely died down, but it's still there in that division rivalry. Kenny Pickett, obviously it's not worst case scenario, but he is looking like he's going to miss at least a few weeks. That'll put Mitchell Trubisky under center. You can really honestly argue the Ravens could be 4-0. They dominated Cleveland last week with Dorian Thompson-Robinson starting at quarterback. And even though I think Pittsburgh is going to be able to keep it competitive somewhat, I got to go with the Ravens here. I just think they're going to go in. Don't think Mitchell Trubisky has the best of games. And I think that Ravens offense, they could definitely light Pittsburgh up. So, going to go with the Ravens here, giving them the win. Next game. There doesn't really need to be much explanation here. Carolina 0-4. I mean, you could have very well won that game last week versus Minnesota, but you didn't. And the Lions are absolutely dominant. I think if Detroit takes care of business, they come out, and I think they absolutely smack the Panthers around. And I think Detroit, they're going to see them roll on Sunday. Really do. All right, next game. I'm obviously not going to talk too much about this game because I'm saving it for the preview tomorrow. But the Texans at the Falcons. listen, as us, the Texans, you have to give them credit. CJ Stroud is probably even ahead of Bijan Robinson in terms of offensive rookie of the year race with how amazing he's looked. He hasn't even turned the ball over yet. Tank Dell, Nico Collins. They have an offense in Houston that can do damage, that's heading in the right direction. Will Anderson on that defense. It's going to be a tough game, but however, I will say this. I think Houston is due for a loss, and I think, listen, I think that this game cannot be stressed how important it is. I think the Falcons are going to come out Sunday. I think it's going to be a close game, but I think we're going to come out and we're going to get that win, get back over 500. Then we can go from there, but we have to win this game Sunday. This is a must win, but it's one I definitely think we can win. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Falcons win and get back over 500. Next game, oh my God, this is going to be an absolute shellacking. There really doesn't need that. This lock of the week. The Giants look absolutely awful this year. In Miami, they are rolling. I know they got beat by Buffalo on Sunday, but listen, division opponent. Buffalo is no doubt the biggest challenge to them in that division. So I think Miami comes out. I think that offense gets right back on track, and I think they roll here. 33-12. Give me the Dolphins. Moving into the late window, 4:05. Cincinnati Bengals at Arizona Cardinals. Arizona, they've been able to stay in these games. Even last week for San Francisco, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So I think it's probably going to be another very close game in the desert. And it could be one maybe Arizona comes out and wins. I'm going to say Cincinnati wins this. But, man, I don't think this is going to probably be another sloppy game that I think Arizona probably in the end, they're just really going to give up. I mean, you have to figure the Bengals are going to get it going at some point. And if you can't get it really going here, then I don't know what to tell you, Bengals fans. This next game, the undefeated Eagles, 4-0, one of the only two remaining undefeated teams, going to LA to face the Rams. The Eagles, outside of the game against Tampa Bay, they have had 3 games that you can really honestly argue they could have lost each of them. It was a close game versus New England, close game versus Minnesota that the Vikings really let slip away. And you can honestly argue they should have lost last week. The Rams, they bounced back. Puka Nacua that's another one. I mean, you're talking the offensive rookie of the year race without a doubt. I think Puka Nacua, Bijan Robinson, and CJ Stroud, those are your 3 guys in the offensive rookie of the year race. I think this is probably, I'm going to go ahead and say this is probably game of the week. And I picked Philadelphia to get their first loss last week. They stayed undefeated. I'm going to go ahead and do it again. I'm going to give this one to the Rams here. I think this is upside of the week. I think it's game of the week. I just think ultimately Philadelphia is due for that loss. And I think coming up here against the Rams, I think you're going to end up getting your first loss because, first of all, Cooper Kupp's coming back. So we're talking about Puka Nacua. Now you add Cooper Kupp into the equation. And obviously Nacua and Matthew Stafford, I think a lot of people really just wrote him off, which you can't do that. A healthy Matthew Stafford can be a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and say the Eagles, they're making that trip across the country. I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Rams here. I think they pull it out. Next game, this was a game that really hyped up in preseason, but as a game you look at now, and there really isn't much intrigue looking at the records. The New York Jets at Denver Broncos. Denver got their first one last week, coming back down from 21 against Chicago. The Jets, they lost versus the Chiefs on Sunday night, but they look pretty good doing it. I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Jets here. I think it's going to be a sloppy defensive ball game. Don't think you're going to see a lot of offense at all, but man, I'm telling you that Jets defense is going to cause some problems for that Denver offense if they don't already have enough. So Going to go ahead, give this one to the Jets here. I do think Zach Wilson is starting to look more and more like he has potential. And I think that translates this week, as I think he does just enough, and the Jets get the win. Next game here, obviously I think the biggest thing everyone's going to be looking is Taylor at third straight Chiefs game. The Kansas City Chiefs at the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota is just that team that there's a lot of potential on offense, but the defense is just absolutely awful. They got their first win last week versus Carolina, but the defense still is very lackluster, and we don't need to explain anything about that Kansas City offense. I think the Chiefs are going to come out, have a nice day against the Minnesota Vikings, so give me the Chiefs here. I think Minnesota, it's definitely, and you weren't expecting it, but it's definitely heading downhill in the Twin Cities. Sunday Night Football, one of the historic rivalries in the NFL. The Dallas Cowboys, San Francisco 49ers. Many historic playoff meetings between these two. Both have won 5 Super Bowls. Both are looking to add their 6th ring this year. And both have maybe the 2 best defenses in the NFL. So, obviously not going to be high scoring. It could be low scoring, but probably going to be more your traditional ball game. I think it's going to be a close one, but it's in Levi. And I think the 49ers are going to take care of business and stay undefeated. I think this is no doubt, with the exception of obviously Philadelphia, and we know what happened there in the NFC Championship to Brock Purdy. This you can definitely, I think, say is the best defense Brock Purdy has faced all season without a shadow of a doubt. So definitely got to be another big CMC game. You're going to want to get that running game going. But ultimately, your defense, I think, comes up. I don't think Dak is really going to go in here and have much of a good game. So I'll go ahead and say, at home, going to give this one to the Niners here. As they, I think, after week 5, will be the only undefeated team left standing. And final game of the weekend, Monday Night Football. The Green Bay Packers looking to bounce back from an ugly loss versus Detroit against the Las Vegas Raiders. This is a game that you look at and you kind of say whatever. The Raiders definitely, if you look at it, they could have won some of these games, but also I think it's time to face Las Vegas. They're not a good football team. And I would probably say Green Bay, I think they have more to play for. Obviously, it's still early in the season, and the Raiders are at home. But I think Green Bay, they want to bounce back. They want to prove they can still at least be in it in the NFC for the wild card race. So I'm going to go ahead and give this one to the Packers here. I think the Packers come out, and I think they will bounce back with that offense, Jordan Love and company. And I'm going to give this one to the Packers. So with that being said, Week 5 picks. We're getting there, man. We're getting closer and closer and closer as these weeks go on to halfway point of the season. It's time to really start amping it up here. But nonetheless, those are the picks. Tomorrow, I will see you all for Falcons, Texans, preview and predictions. Until then, I'm out.